Russell Westbrook just announced his retirement, and NBA players immediately started reacting. Trae Young calling it a hell of a career to Donovan Mitchell simply saying thank you. The messages poured in. But not every player is happy to see him go. Let me catch you up. It happened on a Wednesday. No press tour, no farewell season, no goodbye games, just a video. Westbrook wrote, "Sometimes you don't even know when you've already watched the end," in a post that contained a video of his career narrated by actor Michael B. Jordan. 2 lines followed that video, and they hit like a gut punch to anyone who grew up watching him play. You had to be there, and now it's over. That was it. That was the announcement, and within minutes, timelines across the NBA started flooding. Trae Young was one of the first players to respond, and he kept it simple. "What a hell of a career," Trae Young wrote on his own account. No essay, no long thread, just a guy who'd shared a court with Westbrook, tipping his hat immediately. Donovan Mitchell followed with his own message, short and direct. "Thank you, Russ West 44, Donovan Mitchell posted. 2 players, 2 different generations of point guard, both stopping what they were doing to acknowledge the moment. And it wasn't just current stars. Former teammate James Harden, who came up under Westbrook and Kevin Durant on those early Thunder teams, sent his own message too, adding to a wave of tributes that basketnews.com described as coming from every corner of the league. As fans, contemporaries, and several others offered their love and well wishes, Westbrook also earned a special message from James Harden. Sam Presti, the man who drafted him, didn't hold back either. Presti, who drafted Westbrook 4th overall in 2008, released an emotional statement reflecting on what the future Hall of Famer meant to Oklahoma City, calling him the ultimate competitor. So right away you had teammates, rivals, executives, all reacting to the same thing. A guy who spent 18 years doing things nobody else in NBA history had done, walking away without so much as a farewell tour. Now here's what made this retirement land so hard. This wasn't some journeyman player nobody saw coming. Westbrook was calling it a career after spending 18 years in the league, a 9-time All-Star and the 2016-17 MVP, hanging it up as the NBA's all-time triple-double leader, with 209 triple-doubles compiled over his career. Those numbers aren't just impressive, they're borderline unbelievable for a modern point guard. And the way he decided to leave mattered too. Westbrook had offers this offseason with the Sacramento Kings and Washington Wizards, but chose to step away from the game on his own terms. Sources told ESPN's Shams Charania. He wasn't cut, he wasn't forced out. He had a roster spot waiting and turned it down. That detail is what got fans talking before the players even weighed in, because a guy who averaged near a triple-double at 37 years old had the option to keep playing and said no. One fan captured the mixed emotions perfectly online, writing that the announcement stung more than expected. That Russell Westbrook retirement announce hurt the soul. He gave so much to the game. Real legend, one user posted. Another fan online put his career in blunt terms, saying, "I don't think Russell Westbrook will ever be appreciated like he should be." And that's the sad part about how his career ended, pointing out that he'd averaged a triple-double across 4 separate seasons. That tension, respect mixed with a little bit of grief over how it ended, is what set the tone for everything that followed. Because once the initial shock wore off, the reactions started getting more specific. Guys weren't just saying great career. They were talking about what he actually meant to them personally, on and off the court. That's where this story needs to slow down. Because to understand why an entire league stopped to react to one man's exit, you have to go back to where it all started. A kid from LA who almost didn't get drafted high enough to matter, playing for a franchise that didn't even exist yet in the city that would come to love him. Before he was Mr. Triple-Double, Westbrook was barely a blip on NBA draft boards. He wasn't some can't-miss 5-star recruit turned lottery lock. After a 2-year college career at UCLA, Westbrook was selected number 4 in the 2008 NBA draft by the Seattle Supersonics. But he never played a game in the city. The franchise packed up before he ever put on the jersey. The franchise moved to Oklahoma City that summer, and Westbrook quickly emerged into a pillar of a rebuild nobody expected to work that fast. He landed in a market with no NBA history, no fan base built up over decades, nothing. Just a young core and a city hungry for something to claim as its own. That's the part people forget when they talk about his numbers. Westbrook didn't get handed a super team. He helped build the thing from scratch, and he did it fast. There, Westbrook was a core member of one of the promising young rosters in NBA history that never coalesced to win an NBA championship. He wasn't alone, though. The Thunder had assembled something special almost by accident. Westbrook was one of 3 future MVPs playing on those early Thunder teams, alongside Kevin Durant and James Harden. Three guys who'd go on to combine for MVP trophies, all wearing the same jersey, all under 25 years old. For a few years, it looked unstoppable. They advanced as far as the NBA Finals in 2012, when they lost to the LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh Miami Heat. That loss stung, but nobody thought it was the ceiling. Everybody assumed they'd be back. They weren't. The following offseason, the Thunder traded Harden to Houston, where he evolved from his sixth-man role in Oklahoma City to his MVP prime with the Rockets. 1/3 of the young core, gone in a cap-driven move that looked smart on paper and devastating in hindsight. Westbrook stayed. He kept grinding through it. And then in 2016, the fracture nobody wanted to admit was coming finally happened. Westbrook and Durant were two alphas, and coexisting was complicated at times. Their time together came to an end after a Western Conference Finals trip in 2016. Ended with a Game 7 loss to nemesis Golden State, resulting in Durant leaving for the Warriors the next season. Just like that, the Thunder's original Big Three was down to one, and that one man had a choice most stars in his position wouldn't have made. He didn't ask out. He didn't demand a trade to catch up with his former co-star. He re-signed. OKC lost in a dramatic 7-game series to the 73-win Golden State Warriors in the 2016 playoffs, and Durant departed for the Warriors that ensuing summer. But Westbrook remained, signing an extension at a time the organization felt at its most vulnerable, keeping the Thunder relevant in his mid-prime seasons and helping lure Paul George. That single decision is why Oklahoma City fans talk about him the way they do. He didn't leave when leaving would have been the easy, obvious move for his own legacy. He stayed and rebuilt the whole thing around himself alone. And what he did in that stretch, without a second star to lean on, is still talked about as some of the most jaw-dropping individual production in league history. Without Durant and before teammates like Carmelo Anthony and Paul George arrived, Westbrook had to take matters into his own hands just to keep the Thunder afloat, headlined by a 51-point, 10-rebound, 13-assist triple-double against the Houston Rockets in the playoffs, against James Harden, another of his former teammates, arguably the best statistical postseason performance ever. That's not hyperbole from a fan account. That's a documented performance that still gets cited as one of the gold standards of what one player can do without help. The peak of all this arrived in a season that basketball people still argue is one of the most statistically absurd in league history. Westbrook won the 2017 NBA MVP award after averaging 31.6 points, 10.7 rebounds, 10.4 assists, and 1.6 steals per game, becoming the first player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double for an entire season. Think about that for a second. Nobody had done it since the early 1960s, and Westbrook didn't just match the bar. Westbrook's 42 triple-doubles in 2016-17 broke the 55-year-old record of 41 set by Oscar Robertson in 1961-62. He didn't tie history. He shattered it alone, in a league that had shifted almost entirely towards spacing and shooting, not usage-heavy triple-double basketball. That's the version of Westbrook that Thunder fans still hold on to. The guy who refused to let the franchise collapse after losing 2 co-stars in 3 years. And it's exactly why, nearly a decade later, when he finally walked away for good, so many of the reactions trace straight back to Oklahoma City. Here's the thing about Westbrook's story. It doesn't end with him holding the franchise together. Eventually, OKC decided it was time for a total reset, and that meant moving on from the guy who'd given the city everything. The Thunder traded George to the LA Clippers and Westbrook to the Houston Rockets before the 2019-20 season, replenishing their asset base and rebuilding the core of what would become the 2025 NBA champions. Except it wasn't the Thunder who became 2025 champions. That trade haul is what eventually built the foundation for the team that made the finals under a completely different superstar. That superstar was a rookie named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the moment he arrived, comparisons to Westbrook were inevitable and immediate. He didn't want any part of them. No soy Russell Westbrook, dijo Gilgeous-Alexander con naturalidad, agregando que no tenían el mismo juego ni el mismo tipo de cuerpo, y que trataría de ser el mismo. In other words, I'm not him. I'm not trying to be him. I'm going to be myself and let the rest sort itself out. That humility aged well. Years later, when reporters asked Gilgeous-Alexander directly about the man whose shoes he'd been asked to fill, his answer had changed in tone completely. He's one of the best competitors to ever play the game. Gilgeous-Alexander said, "Him as well as a really good guy off the court. A guy that I'm cool with and we're friends. He's just a really good guy. No tension, no shade, just respect from one franchise cornerstone to the guy who came before him, the guy whose exit made room for his own rise." And that rise ended up being massive. By the time Westbrook was playing out the final years of his career on minimum deals, Gilgeous-Alexander had become the new face of the same franchise, chasing down records that once belonged to Westbrook. In one game alone, Gilgeous-Alexander dropped 38 points, 8 assists, and 3 steals, putting him just a handful of wins away from passing Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook on the franchise's all-time list. That's a strange kind of legacy moment, watching the guy who replaced you slowly overtake the numbers you built. But fans online didn't see it as some rivalry. If anything, the retirement news made people wish the two eras could have overlapped just a little longer. One fan online pointed out how close it came to happening, saying, "I would have loved to have seen Russell Westbrook play for OKC one final year. Definitely deserved that retirement season with them." Another echoed that sentiment with real frustration, writing, "Bummer the Brody didn't get a much-deserved farewell tour. OKC fans would have loved to send him off properly. But fans will have that chance when the zero jersey is lifted into the rafters." That last part isn't just fan wish-casting either. Former teammate Kendrick Perkins has been vocal about making it happen. Perkins has publicly advocated for the Thunder to retire Westbrook's number 0 jersey and commission a statue in his likeness, noting that in his view, Westbrook stands as the second greatest player in franchise history, behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, second all-time, behind the guy who once said he wasn't trying to be him. That's the kind of full-circle detail that makes this retirement land differently in Oklahoma City than anywhere else he played. But OKC wasn't the only place Westbrook left a mark that outlasted his stat line. His locker room reputation traveled with him through every stop after. And that part of the story is just as important to why players kept reacting the way they did. By the time Westbrook hit his mid-30s, the conversation around him had shifted. He wasn't the alpha averaging a triple-double anymore. He was bouncing from roster to roster, and the story could easily have turned bitter. It didn't. It's difficult to move Westbrook much higher up the all-time list based on his performance over his final 4 seasons, when he served as a role player for 4 different teams: the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, and Kings, winning only a single playoff series for Denver in 2025. On paper, that's a decline. In practice, it became the part of his story that earned him the most respect from teammates. Because Westbrook did something a lot of former MVPs refused to do. He changed roles without complaint. During the 2023-2024 NBA season, Westbrook voluntarily moved to the bench to help stabilize the second unit after the Clippers acquired James Harden, who was also his former teammate in Oklahoma City and Houston. A former MVP coming off the bench by choice to help a team win. That's not nothing. And when it mattered, the production was still there. In the 2023 Western Conference Playoffs opening round, Westbrook led the Clippers with averages of 23.6 points, 7.6 rebounds, and 7.4 assists over 5 games against the Phoenix Suns, including a 37-point game, despite the shorthanded Clippers ultimately losing the series to Kevin Durant's Suns. Even in his final season, he wasn't just riding out a paycheck. The final chapter of Westbrook's career was characterized by a rapid series of moves, playing for 5 teams over his last 6 seasons, with his final stint coming with the Sacramento Kings, where he started 58 of 64 games during the 2025-26 season. 58 starts at 37 years old, on a team that leaned on him as a primary ball handler. That's what made the retirement announcement catch so many people off guard. He wasn't washed. He was still productive, still starting, still competing at a level that had other franchises calling. Fans zeroed in on exactly that detail with a mix of confusion and frustration. One user online put it bluntly, "Low-key feels like Westbrook got blackballed out the league. He was the best player on the Kings last season, and no team wanted him for some reason." Whether or not that framing holds up, the underlying fact stands. Teams were circling. According to reporting, Westbrook opted to retire on his own terms, despite receiving interest from other teams, including the Kings and Wizards, to continue his playing career. He simply decided he was done chasing more seasons. And that decision is what pulled tributes out of people who don't typically get emotional about roster moves. ESPN's own team of NBA insiders admitted as much when discussing his exit, with one analyst noting some of the peaks of his career were truly extraordinary. And those young OKC teams with him and Kevin Durant and James Harden were just a hell of a lot of fun. That word fun kept coming up. Not efficient, not optimal, fun, because Westbrook played a style of basketball that modern efficiency metrics never fully appreciated, but that players and fans who watched it live never forgot. The combination of Westbrook and Durant was supposed to be the future of the NBA for a long time, a generational blend of Russ' explosiveness and triple-double suited game. With Durant's smooth and elite scoring skill set, it didn't become the multi-ring dynasty people expected back in 2012, but it became something else, a case study in loyalty, reinvention, and a guy who refused to fade quietly even after his stardom era had technically ended. And that's exactly the version of Westbrook players across the league were responding to when the retirement video dropped. So circle back to that Wednesday post, the one with Michael B. Jordan's voice over career highlights, the one that ended with 2 lines that felt more like a period at the end of a very long sentence. Once the shock wore off, the reactions from around the league stopped being short and started getting reflective. Kendrick Perkins wasn't the only Thunder alum weighing in on legacy. Analysts who'd covered his whole run started trying to actually rank him among the greats, and the debate got surprisingly nuanced. Other players who weren't on the 75th anniversary team, most notably Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, have surely passed Westbrook on the all-time list, but he'd still rank somewhere in the 60s overall, which, given that StatHead lists over 5,000 NBA players in its database, places him among the top 1.5% of players in league history. Top 1.5% in a league that's been running since 1946. That's the number that put everything else in perspective for people arguing about where he belongs. And then there's the piece of his game that never made a box score. Westbrook was as multifaceted off the court with his fashion, turning the entrance hallway to Oklahoma City's arena into a runway with his outfits. A tradition back-to-back MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander continues today. And he was the NBA's undisputed fashion king during his prime, even sewing some of his own outfits. He famously trolled his former co-star during a return trip to Golden State and kept the receipts. He wore a photographer's vest to troll Durant when the Thunder visited Golden State in 2016, and said he kept some of his favorite pieces, including his Met Gala outfits and his draft night suit. Small detail, but it says everything about how much personality he brought to a league that can feel corporate and scripted. His former running mate wasn't done paying tribute either. Harden, years after their Thunder days ended, had already said publicly what those early seasons meant for his own career, and it resurfaced hard once the retirement news broke. Durant and Westbrook set the blueprint. When I got there, they had the blueprint of how to work. All I did was just fall right in line. Those 3 years really helped me in my NBA career, Harden had said, crediting the two for the confidence that carried him into his own MVP prime in Houston. That's 3 separate MVPs, Durant, Harden, and Westbrook himself, whose careers all trace back to the exact same young Thunder locker room. One trade, one retirement, one contract extension apart from looking completely different in the history books. Fans picked up on that same thread once the retirement posts started circulating widely. One fan online wrote about the stretch of basketball Westbrook gave fans right after Durant left, calling it some of the greatest underdog hoops I've ever seen in my life, while calling him inspiring. Another simply summed up the vibe of his whole run with a phrase that stuck: meme legend, triple-double legend, Hall of Famer. Even the more skeptical corners of the internet, the ones that spent years debating his shot selection and efficiency, came around by the end. One user acknowledged the weight of the moment directly, admitting, Russell Westbrook retiring feels like the beginning of the end of a major era in the NBA. A separate fan tied the sentiment to what's coming next for the league, noting the wave of stars from that generation who'll eventually follow him out the door: LeBron, Durant, Curry, Harden. An era where we'll see so many of our favorite players retire soon after Westbrook. That's ultimately what all those reactions from Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Harden, Presti, and Gilgeous-Alexander added up to. Not just a goodbye to one player's stat sheet, but an acknowledgement that an entire chapter of NBA basketball, the era of 3 Alpha Thunder teams, of triple-doubles as a weekly occurrence, of a guy who never once played it safe, had officially closed. He didn't get the storybook final season in Oklahoma City that fans wanted for him. He didn't get the retirement tour. But he got something that mattered more in the moment it counted. An entire league, across generations and franchises, stopping what it was doing to say thank you, all at once, unprompted, because of what those 18 years actually meant.